Okay, hi everyone. My name is Amy Souza, and I am here today speaking with Jesika Gonzalez of the TERF Collective. I'm excited to be talking to you, Jessica, and we're going to talk just a little bit about what Jessica does and where her activism lies, and also get into some upcoming events that she is helping to organize. Sisters for Sisters weekend in Michigan, and the Courage Calls to Courage Feminists Speak in Solidarity speaking event. So hi, welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for speaking with me.
Yay. Well, I'm really excited to be here with you. We had a great opportunity to meet in Tacoma, Washington last year. Uh, so I want to talk today first, just to get into a little bit of who you are and what you do, and tell everyone who doesn't know already. Many, of course, of the audience who will be watching this will already know, but for those who don't, what is the TERF Collective, and how did you come to start the TERF Collective?
So, TERF Collective is basically now just a small international group of women that meet weekly, sometimes semi-weekly, to discuss anything and everything about turfing. It's a group I founded back in April just for that purpose, to bring TERFs, specifically Facebook TERFs, together in conversation every week to move ourselves from being irritated and being angry and being frustrated, moving us more into an action space where we feel a little bit more empowered, we get to do more, but also a place for just kind of healing and holding each other and stuff like that, because sometimes we're up against these conditions and these circumstances in where the trans ideology affects our real life in a painful way. And some women needed a space to talk about that and have some sisterhood around that. So it's just like a multi-purpose meeting space. So we incubate ideas and we also support and hold each other. And
Yeah,
that's what TERF Collective is right now.
yeah. And what led you to start this group? And what was your, I guess I should ask, as everyone is always curious, what was your peak moment? What made you want to get involved in this conversation? How did you come to be involved in it? And what made you want to get activated around it?
Sure. So actually, I came to being a TERF in Peking from a very my own like unique direction. I was a very strong Bernie bro. Actually, I'm like super lefty, right? And around and after the Bernie campaign and stuff like that, people were really kind of disillusioned with the system. We felt like Bernie had gotten robbed, and people were kind of breaking off into their own small conversations. I really started to think about Black and Indigenous liberation. I started to think about how these electoral politics systems weren't serving uh, those populations and those communities and those struggles for liberation. And in that vein of conversation, I remember we were talking about who needs to be most centered, who needs to be most empowered, and who needs to be most elevated. And naturally, that became Black and Indigenous women need to be more centered and more propped up, our voices more heard. And I started to get pushback that it wasn't just Black and Indigenous women, but also femmes. And I realized that when they said femmes, they meant Black and Indigenous males that had kind of a feminine presentation or predisposition or something like that. And I was very strong that no, because those men's particular circumstances are not the same as female material oppression that we have faced in the patriarchy for all these thousands of years. So that's where pieces started coming together for me. Before that, I would have been one of these people who's out and loud and proud trans women or women, because I felt like why wouldn't we want protection from discrimination, harassment, and violence for even effeminate, for lack of a better term, men or feminine presenting men. Of course, of course. And I thought this was just kind of a mental device, a social device to be able to provide allocate protections for
Yeah.
those people. And I realized that that's not all it was, that they actually wanted to begin to siphon off of our hard-earned positions and allocations that we need, specifically because we are oppressed for our biological reality. And that became unacceptable to me. And that's when I personally came called to this fight.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, it's really interesting. I always find that it's interesting that so many times those of us who are speaking on this issue, which is really to me a pro-reality issue, um, so many of us are actually come from the left, and we often get accused of being right wing and religious zealots, and when in reality, many of us are good leftists at heart.
Yeah, totally. Leftist, atheist, like all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I want to hear a little bit about what are some of the actions that the TERF Collective has done thus far.
So TERF Collective, my personal vision, and at least that's kind of the way we're working right now,
Yeah.
is to leverage the fact that we are disparately positioned and leverage the fact that we're isolated. So
Yeah.
those are really points against us, should be points against us being able to organize and mobilize. But I kind of had it in my mind taking, it's not a concept I invented of, you know, um, working remotely or doing leafleting remotely, but it's something that I know exists and just thought to bring it to our struggle here against trans ideology. And that is, so far we've done 2 campaigns, are still both underway. One is called the Target campaign. I'll explain them both a little more. And then the other is, you might be a TERF, the leaflet that we came up with. And I call these paper protests, okay, because any woman anywhere in the world can take the files to these documents. One is a quarter flyer, the other one is a trifold pamphlet, and print them all from anywhere she may be and distribute them anywhere she may be. So if you're in Tacoma, Washington, if you're out here in Pennsylvania, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, if you're in England, they've made their way to England.
Wow.
They've made their way to Australia. Yes, there's TERF Collective stickers in Amsterdam. Like anywhere you are, you can just distribute this information. The Target campaign was when I came across a study done that showed that there was an increase in incidences of sexual assault at Target stores after they implemented a gender neutral bathroom policy. So I thought to have these quarter flyers drawn up with a link to the study and just that highlighted a particularly sharp statistic from that study. Right now we have one. It says, did you know that peeping Tom incidents have increased 190% at Target stores since implementing a gender neutral bathroom policy? And you don't have to be left wing or right wing to know that that is going to be a harm to women and children. So we take these quarter flyers, stacks of these quarter flyers, fill them up and stick them in pants, pockets, jeans, purses, anything that goes that an adult human female might buy, so that she is now empowered with this information. This is what's going on at your Target store that you shop at, whether you know it or not, and whether you like it or not, whether you voted for it or not. This is what's happening, and at least now you know. What you do with that information is up to you. But it's basically a large peaking campaign. We
Yeah.
don't expect that we will get Target to change their policies on the basis of us doing this, but we do hope that we can use the fact that they've done this as a catalyst to peak even more women. And you can do that by yourself in complete isolation in some small town in Virginia. You don't even need to know another TERF. You just have this file, you print it off, you can print it off from home, you can take it to a print shop or local library, discreetly print them, cut them up, fold them up and just go and do it. And right now we're mid-COVID pandemic still, so you mask up, right? And you just work
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
So look up at the cameras and you get your little work done. And every time you do it, you have the potential to peak as many as 200 other women that are shopping in that Target store that week.
Yeah.
Additionally, similarly, we have the TERF Collective pamphlet that we came out with that is a very comprehensive pamphlet. It talks about everything from biological realities to the differences between males and females and conditions of intersex, which a lot in the trans ideology community love to collapse into being the same as trans, and that's just not true. So we explain that. We explain male criminality. We explain men and women's sports. We explain how trans ideology is being attempted to be used to overwrite homosexuality and even heterosexuality. That's all information jam-packed into our newest pamphlet, and women are printing that off and distributing it everywhere. So it's even made it into lawmakers' offices in Washington, D.C. by now, so it's going everywhere, and I'm really excited about that. And again, these are ways that TERF Collective seeks to leverage the fact that we are all alone. We might be just one woman all alone in some city in Kansas, and we do have a woman all alone in a city in Kansas, but she can contribute to the struggle. We can all contribute to the struggle, and we don't have to feel so powerless and isolated.
Yeah. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And I mean, as you said, you're right. Like the fact that Target is not going to change its policy just actually keeps that opportunity window open.
Yep,
And
exactly.
it just shows how insidious this is, and it is getting worse, really. And I think it's, yeah. Have you noticed, are there women who are coming to you, coming to the TERF Collective or checking in with you because they were peaked at a Target store?
None that were picked from the Target store, but there are women that have found out about the campaign, and that's how they found out about TERF Collective. So I like the fact that the campaign spread beyond just our little group. It's being shared on social media, and so other women are finding out about it. They want to participate in it. They carry out the protest, and then they come to us and they say, well, I want to be they learn what TERF Collective actually is, and they come to us and they want to join in. We haven't had anybody yet that's like that we know is peaked, but I'm not sure I expect that yet. That's like super hopeful, and I hope
we don't know, because
we don't know.
Some of these women might be, more shy than others, and I mean, it might have piqued them, but they might just not be that activist persona. It does take a certain persona
to come out, and and it's very hard to trust, so it makes total sense. We're happy to just put the information out there and let the universe carry it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you just sort of a two-part question, which is, you've embraced the term TERF. And so I want to ask one, would or I'll just ask, would you consider yourself a radical feminist? And, what prompted you to embrace that term, which is, obviously used as a slur against us so many times. And I know some feminists, have embraced it, and some have rejected that term. I actually have a video on my YouTube that called "There's No Such Thing as a TERF," because I was trying to make the point that, we're not exclusionary of anyone. We center women. But what are your thoughts, and what led you to kind of claim that word and use it?
Sure. I mean, in reality, I feel the same way you do, Amy. There really isn't such a thing as a TERF. We do not exclude trans people. Trans identifying females are women, and therefore do come under the scope of radical feminism, and are part of that struggle. So you're right. There's no such thing as a TERF, but it is a term that's out there used by trans ideologists, trans identity supremacists, as I call them. And for that reason, I'm going to claim that term just to claim my stake in this fight. And also to signal that I'm not scared of the names you're going to call me,
Yeah.
because it's not about this word. I'm not going to waste a moment of time fighting with a trans ideologist about their nonsense word. I am going to fight until my dying breath over women's rights and allocations. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's almost like a way to divert us, in my mind, my personal opinion, to get us fighting over the word TERF. And
Yeah.
I almost get to feeling like, well, first world problems, eh? Because if you spend hours and hours and hours fighting with men over being called a TERF, are you fighting over for our sisters in the prison, or our sisters that are being denied access to rape crisis shelters effectively because in order to use them, they have to sit next to a man? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's fight that. Me, my limited time, limited resources, and I'd rather fight that. I'd rather yield. I'm a fucking TERF.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get into the Michigan weekend, I want to ask you kind of, I don't know, I guess what I think is kind of a juicy question. And you said earlier in this that when you were kind of in this Bernie bro place, you were attempting to center Black and Indigenous women, and that was kind of your primary idea of who needed centering. And I'm just wondering, how does that come into play now in your turfdom? I do see all the time that radical feminists are critiqued for not being, I guess not the word inclusive. I hate that word because it's so overused, but not basically forgetting to do that centering of those more marginalized women groups, and and also just there is sometimes a racism underlying
Sure.
white
Yeah.
feminism. And how do you grapple with that, or what are your thoughts on that? What do you see as what is needed next, or what is still missing from this movement that could be tapped into or changed?
Yeah, so that's a conversation that I have even with other Black and racialized minority women, that the few of us that are in this space. So that's a conversation that's ongoing right now about how, basically, to me, what I believe we need is to grow the numbers. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that it's being weaponized against us on this side right now is the myth of the Black trans woman,
Yeah.
and her being the most victimized human alive. And in my mind, in order to combat that, what we need is Black women, right? We
Yeah.
need Black women to step up and be able to talk about their experiences, their unique marginalization, and what they go through. So right now, what my approach is just making sure that I'm creating an opening, that I'm serving as a placeholder. So that's why I think it's important that I, of my own power and my own volition, my own accord, establish this thing called TERF Collective.
Yep.
And any and every Black woman and Indigenous woman alive that feels called to this fight has a seat at this table.
Yeah.
And it, personally, in my opinion, would get a big voice at this table, because we need more of us here to fight from this position. But in terms of like what is needed, that's still something that is what is needed. We need to grow the ranks, and how we grow the ranks is still a conversation that I'm in this conversation all the time right now. I have a couple of ideas, and it's just a matter of finding more time and the right people to help with carrying it out. But we're working on that, but because our numbers are very low, it's just a slower process. I encourage, certainly, white women in this movement to take seriously the fact of wanting and needing to make more space and platform more of us, and any of us that you find that take an interest in this. yield to the floor, listen to what we have to say, and take us seriously, because that's the only way that we will create an accommodating and inviting atmosphere for even more. And again, this movement, whether or not it wants it, it will need it, because again, like I said moments ago, the weaponization of this person, this mythical person, the Black trans woman. You know, if that's their trump card, we will need people with agency to fight that fight. And unfortunately, white women are just not going to be the suitable counterparty to fight that fight. We will need more of us.
What would you say, or what are your thoughts on what is stopping or not stopping, or what is hindering, like what's in the way of more women of color, participating? Like, do you think it is white feminism, or academia, or what is sort of the stopper right now from pulling more women in?
That's really hard for me personally to answer, because I was able to get pulled in, and I don't feel like I had to overcome a lot of challenges to do it, because I've identified as a feminist since I was 6 years old. I've identified as pro-choice since I was 12. So I followed a lot of the path of ordinary white feminism. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was living an ordinary life outside of feminism and then a switch flipped. So I can't describe what that process would be or what it is exactly that would entail. For right now, what I'm doing is, like I said, just trying to create an accommodating atmosphere, an inviting atmosphere, and really just trying to swat down implicit biases that white women around me may have that may serve to kind of repel Black, Indigenous women, and other racialized women. And that's really kind of what I'm working at right now. But yes, I am trying to keep an ear open and an eye open for what it is that is a challenge for ordinary working women that weren't feminists at 6 and 12. Right? Like, there are a lot of also white women that weren't feminists at 6 and 12 and are very turned off by the feminist label. And it kind of makes sense that because they're just a smaller population, that then less of those women would have trickled into this movement. So it makes sense to me, but of course we do need them. So we do need to start to identify what challenges are and work really hard to overcome them, because that's how I think we will defeat these myths that are out there.
Thank you for that. And I really, I do just thank you for your work at TERF Collective, just because, I think that this country is such a giant and disparate country where it's almost like each state has its own values and practices and approaches to politics and just like all kinds of behavior sets. So I feel like, there's a lot of times that I see women, United States women, sort of wishing that we were more like TERF Island and and why can't we be more like that? And yet, they can all drive in like 3-4 hours and meet together, and we, it's like if you drive fast, it's still like a 5-6 day drive across the country. We can't meet in person in in a matter of hours.
It's not so easy.
So I think that I really love what you're doing with the TERF Collective, because I do think it pulls women in from all over the country and allows us to connect. Some women may be living really rural, some may be living in cities, some may be living in red states or blue states, north, south. I mean, there's so many different sort of lifestyle sets going on in those different states that sometimes our concerns are really varied, but obviously we all deeply care about women. And I feel like what I would say what the TERF Collective shows is that there are, hundreds and hundreds of women who are passionate and involved in this. It's just that we can't all gather in a group of, a few
Yeah.
hundred every weekend.
Right.
Yeah. So let's get into Sisters for Sisters. I want to hear kind of, I want to hear about the event. I want to hear how you got involved in the event, and yeah, let's just talk a little bit about it. Maybe you want to give us, kind of the short story. Well, I don't know my order. I don't know my order of operations here. Do you want to give me the story of how the event came into being, and then tell us what the event is?
Sure. So late last summer, Thistle Petterson, who's the founder of WLRN, Women's Liberation Radio News, and a huge, well-known and deeply loved TERF in our community, was charged with a hate crime in her state of Wisconsin for allegedly posting a TERF Collective sticker somewhere in her town. And that's that was a real big stretch, but it was a really big eye opener for us, certainly for us as TERF Collective, and I'm sure across this as a movement, that we really are being persecuted for these views and beliefs. And in her town of Madison, where everybody is always kind of graffitiing and vandalizing, and all kinds of messaging is going up all the time, for the police department to, you should have seen this complaint. If you haven't yet, it's a real trip. Really just go after her. They were looking at her bicycle, they were looking at her hat, they were tracking CCTV to chase her around. I'm like, aren't there real crimes going on in that community?
They were going over footage to
CCTV to track down just the color of the bicycle, the color of the hat and the jacket. And in my mind, I go, well, I wonder, they better not have a break kit backlog.
We cannot let stickers just be walking around at large.
Really, they better not have a rape kit backlog is all I thought. You know what I mean? Like, they better not have literally 1 fucking ounce of real police business to do in that town, but they're coming after Thistle for allegedly, and we don't know, a fucking sticker. So anyway,
I love
like a good time.
Yeah, I love what you said about, like, there better not be 1 rape kit backlog. This is insane.
Yeah, really, because it shows you, who they consider acceptable and who they consider unacceptable. Like, what crimes are just completely out of bounds and beyond the pale, and what is like totally fine, above board, normal business. There shouldn't, I would hope that there wasn't 1 fucking burglary in the entire city of Madison, Wisconsin that whole week. Okay, honestly, but yeah. So we are, and Thistle has been persecuted in that community for standing up for biological reality for years. This is not the first time they've come for her for that, for believing that men are men and women are women. They've had a long history now of years of doing this to her, and enough is enough. So the event first originated when, Lear Keith, who facilitates a lot of these library speakers events, came to TERF Collective and said, hey, we should go to Madison. We should go and support Thistle there in her town where she's being bashed and harassed and persecuted, and show that town that it's not just one. Okay, Thistle's not alone in this struggle, in this fight. There are many of us. There are hundreds of us. There are thousands of us. We're national and we're global, and we all believe very seriously in this fight, and we're going to come and demonstrate that we're serious. We're not afraid. We're going to speak on the subject in public. We're going to speak on the subject in your public library, and that's what it is.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's, it's so powerful. It's true. It's just true. There are hundreds of us, and I think that's really powerful. And, it strikes me. I don't know how it even somehow, I don't know why, but it's even somehow strikes me because, Thistle is such a gentle person.
She really is.
she's very artistic and sings and you know, she is an incredible activist, but like, you know, compare her with someone like a Julie Bendel who's just like you know, angry and go get I mean, there's all kinds of different women in this movement, but it
Sure.
just somehow like the harassment somehow strikes me as more galling because just of that sweetness and gentleness that Thistle has. And I mean, like, do you think they think, oh, she's just an easy target because she has that quality about herself? Like she's an easy person to attack?
I almost think so. I almost think so. I mean, they just, yeah, they saw somebody that seemed to have a lot of avenues that they could target. So, for example, she is an artist, she's a musician, and she loves doing her music. She used to love playing at the different venues in Madison, and she was basically canceled out from all of that. So they saw a way to hurt her, not only just hurt her, economically. I don't know how much income she was making from her gigs or whatever, but that is her love. She loves to do her music, and they saw a way to punish a woman for being a feminist, and they did it. They just chased her right out of there. So I do believe that that's part of it. I do believe that Madison, Wisconsin has taken a mob mentality against feminism, and they see Thistle as somebody who, while being, soft and creative, is also, she's a fighter. She's not apologetic. She's not going to back down. And so they saw an opening and they took it. And on that weekend in April, we're going to take over that town, TERF Collective. We are hosting and holding a soapbox event, I'm calling it. It's basically a TERF Collective Speakers Corner. We're going to be doing on that Saturday. So we're going to be out there in front of God and everybody, preaching and speaking the gospel of TERFism. And come what may, they will know that none of us are afraid. Not Thistle, not any of the rest of us. We're going to be out there speaking our truth. Hopefully, we're going to be able to connect with some of the people in Madison. Thistle Petterson cannot be the only person in Madison, Wisconsin that believes in biological reality. Hopefully, we'll shake the tree and bring some more of those folks out and really turf that town that weekend.
I'm so excited. I just, it's like, it's so clear to me that these targeted campaigns against a single woman, like, they want to hang her. They want her to be the scapegoat. They want to show other women who may want to speak out, like, this is what happens if you do. And I just, you're right. Thistle is, she may be, artistic and soft spoken, but yeah, she's holding her boundary. She's holding the line. And I think, that's the model. That's the example. That's what those of us who do this work are trying to do for the others. Those of us who are brave enough to speak out, we're modeling it for the others. And that is absolutely what Thistle is doing. She is modeling, no, I will not back down. No, I believe in my boundaries. My no is enough. And I understand reality, like I often am like, what we're talking about here, it's not a belief system. Unlike gender ideologues, this is not a belief system.
Exactly.
This is understanding reality. It's understanding that if I drop the glass, it will fall. I understand that's the reality of the scenario.
Well, that's why they're so scared, because we have the truth on our side. That's why they have to fight so hard. I mean, would they have to persecute Thistle like this if she were on the side of the nonsense? Do you understand? You just dismiss her like, hey, that person's like far off on some other stuff, and just, but no, they have to actively, aggressively pursue, persecute, and even prosecute Thistle because she's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So powerful. So can you speak to what are some of the other things that are going to be happening throughout this weekend? And let me just, I'm just going to put into the comments, I think I can, I'm going to put oops, hold on. Oh, I see. It's not a live chat. Wait, banners. Wait, hold on. Uh, can I do this? Oh, this is.
What?
I just put a banner in that said, "This is an example of a banner."
Oh,
Let me see. Can I add this? Okay, so
oh,
this
cool.
is this is the banner I wanted to put up. So this is the website for anyone who is interested in this event, and I just want to tell you, it is the weekend of April 22nd to the 24th. Okay, and so you spoke about that. You already spoke about there's going to be a speakers corner type event, which
Mhm.
I think is so exciting for women to get up and stand up. And what are some of the other things that women can look forward to as a part of the
Sure.
weekend?
So just kind of briefly kind of go over the weekend. I have the agenda here in front of me. So for anybody watching, just get a little brief overview. So we're going to start on Friday. It's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday actually starts with a critical mass bike ride because Thistle's big thing is riding bikes around her, riding her little red bike with her little basket all over the city of Madison.
Wow.
And she and a bunch of us do like critical mass bike rides. So we're going to do a TERF critical mass bike ride.
Uh,
After that, we're going to follow it. Yes.
Will there be bikes for women who are traveling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're arranging, yes, we're going to be arranging for bike rentals, and their
Okay.
organizers are working on that now. So
Okay.
they'll be available. There's going to be a sign up option when you sign up for the weekend, whether or not you'd like to participate in this weekend. And then that'll give us the numbers we need to, how many to secure.
Right.
Then after that, there's going to be a very nice little potluck for everybody. Then in the evening, an NDVA, nonviolent direct action training, because of course it is important that we keep our movement and our weekend as nonviolent as humanly possible. We do not want to engage physically or even argue with any detractors. Okay, we're going to be going out there to make our statement and promote our message, and we're not going to be engaging aggressively with anybody that may disagree. That's not going to do anything to promote our work or our message. So we're going to do that training that evening, so we're prepared for the remainder of the weekend. Then on Saturday, there's actually going to be a morning of affinity events. So we're going to kind of split off into little groups, and some women are going to do some TERF actions here and some TERF actions there. That's when we'll have the TERF Collective Speakers Corner events. I mean, that's like the working title right now, so I don't know that that's what it's going to be called, but we're going to be having some soapboxing somewhere maybe on State Street in Madison, which is like the main street for free speech in Madison, or we're ironing out details as of yet. Then we're going to be going, then that afternoon, Saturday afternoon, we're all going to be heading towards the Courage, Calls to Courage, Feminist Speak in Solidarity event at the library, where we'll be hearing some really great speakers. Then we're going to be having some more direct action after that. And then there's going to be an open mic that evening. So it's a jam-packed, that's just Saturday alone. I mean, isn't that like so like you're like all over the place on Saturday? So it's like a lot of excitement. Like bring your vitamins, okay? Yeah. Then on Sunday, there's going to be time for women to come together in the morning for some mixing and mingling, like we love to do every time. I know, Amy, you and I, how we met at Tacoma, Washington. At all these events we go to, these quarterly or semi-annual events we go to, we love to meet each other, new women that we haven't met before, networking opportunities. So I'll have an opportunity for that on Sunday morning. Then that's going to be the day where we're going to have workshops and conferences, and Miriam Ben Shalom is going to give her keynote speech that night. Then we're going to have a break for dinner, and then there's going to be there's a treasure hunt on Saturday. I forgot to mention that part. And then this will be when awards and prizes for that treasure hunt will be awarded. So yeah, it's going to be kind of like a crazy weekend. There's going to be a lot of education. There's going to be a lot of activism. There's going to be a lot of sisterhood and solidarity and chances to network and meet and just commune together. Everything from the potluck, the scavenger hunt, the soapboxing, pamphleting if you want to do it, all that. It's going to be action-packed and jam-packed. And I think it's going to be really enriching. And hopefully we'll really fill our cups, even if we will be exhausted after. It'll be like a really good exhaustion, a really energizing exhaustion.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this sounds really incredible. And I know already, I mean, I know a lot of women from the area are going, but I know already that so many women from all over the country are going to be there in person. And as you said, I think it's a chance for those of us who can travel to meet up and be in community and be in solidarity and really show this community that here we are and we're not going to stay silent as they say overseas, women won't weesh, we're
Yeah,
not going to
exactly.
shut up. Wow. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Jesika, for speaking with me today. And yeah, I really am so excited about your work, and I'm very excited about this weekend event and the Courage Calls to Courage speaking event that is going along with it. Is there anything else that, I don't know, that you want to add, or just, I don't know, is there like a message or
I want to name drop. I neglected to
Oh yeah,
name
let's
all the names of all the people you get to see, because if you're going to be traveling here, you want to see some big names, and we have them. So for the Courage Calls to Courage, Feminist Speak in Solidarity speaking event, there will be Kara Dansky, Lear Keith, Thistle herself, Dominique Christina will be there, and also Jeanette Cooper will be there. So that's at the library event. So that's going to be like a really exciting speaking event. And then for the Sunday workshops, I expect I will be giving a workshop. Jeanette, I think, is also going to be giving a workshop on the Sunday as well. There's Miriam Ban Shalom, like I mentioned. Also Beth Stelzer. We have even more. So even more, that list of like who's going to be doing workshops and giving speeches on Sunday is growing. And so there'll be a lot of opportunities, like you can choose and mix and match from who you want to see on Sunday. And it's going to be really, really great. There's a lot of great, strong names and women worth traveling there to network with and get to meet, and women whose brains to pick, and just feel activated and energized to continue on our work for the rest of the week. So thank you so much for giving me that opportunity to drop some names, because I'd be remiss to not mention who all we're going to get to see when we travel out there. So thank you so much, Amy.
Yeah, that's so great. Thank you. And so now I guess I would say, is there, I don't know, is there any what maybe, I don't know, a word of encouragement, or just share with us like what keeps you going, and how do you kind of maintain your stamina and I know so many of us, it's sometimes just intimidating and overwhelming, and it can be depressing because the other side is powerful and they've got a lot of money, and we're just doing this grassroots style. So, I don't know, leave us with what keeps you going and what keeps you motivated.
For me personally, I feel like, well, what choice do I have? That's me personally. I don't have another choice.
Yes.
Like I said, I came into feminism very young, and just my whole life has kind of felt like, the struggle to liberate women and girls from patriarchy that's kind of it for me, and I encourage any woman within the sound of my voice, just, if you need a model, look at Thistle. Be like Thistle. Wake up in the morning and just fight, fight, fight. Like, don't let them beat you down. Don't let them, show that they can like make an example out of you and cover you up and hide you away. Just be like Thistle.
I love that. Yay. All right. Thanks so much, Jesika. I'm going to end the broadcast. I appreciate you being here with me.
Thank you so much, Amy, for speaking with me. Hope to see everybody at this weekend in Madison in April.